Hey, it's Peter Beatty, and welcome to episode number 7 of the Video Revolver Podcast. This episode's a special one because this is the first edition of this podcast where we're going to have a video version. So in this episode, I'm actually going to be interviewing Mike Thomas from the Mike from Maine Show, which is a blog where Mike Thomas interviews other successful online entrepreneurs on a daily basis. He's interviewed over 130, I think he's up to 135 episodes now. So he's interviewed hundreds of people on entrepreneurship, and I think that we can learn a lot from the way that he publishes content and has used interviews to build a name for himself in the internet marketing community. So I think today's interview is going to be helpful, whether if you're an online or an offline local marketer, because it really helps break down how you can use interviews to build a name for yourself and even open up the doors to allow you to approach offline business owners as, from a position as an expert by using the power of interviews. So if you're listening to this podcast on iTunes right now in the audio only version, just know that you can also watch the video version over on videorevolver.com. Now, before we get started, I just wanted to remind you to head on over to my website at videorevolver.com and enter your name in the little sign-up box, or enter your email in the sign-up box right here, and sign up for email updates to be notified whenever I release a new podcast or anything else for that matter. With the introduction out of the way, let's go ahead and jump right into the interview. Hey, it's Peter Beatty with videorevolver.com, and I'm joined here today with Mike. Is it Mike or Michael? What do you prefer?
You can call me Mike Thomas.
All right, Mike Thomas from the Mike from Maine blog, and Mike conducts professional interviews with successful online entrepreneurs on his blog, mikefrommaine.com, and he's done quite a few interviews. I see you're up to like 132 episodes now.
Yeah, it's 132 episodes since September 2012. I'm doing 5 a day.
Wow, that's
not five a day. Sorry, 5 a week. If it was 5 a day, that would be amazing.
Yeah,
but
5 a day.
5 a week.
That's just crazy. I think that's one thing that really impressed me when I first saw your site. I know because you approached me for an interview about a month ago, and when I checked out your site, I just noticed the rate that you crank out these interviews is just very impressive. So I'm really looking forward to finding out, your process behind scheduling your interviews and all that good stuff. So first of all, welcome to the show. Would you mind start off by just telling our listeners, how you got started and why you started doing expert interviews on your blog?
Sure. My story is kind of long. I won't get into the whole gist of it, but let's just say I started in doing internet marketing, or whatever you want to call it, making money online back in 2005, 2006. And at that time, I found out that my brother was making money by selling magazines online. He was making maybe $300,000 a year. Wow. Doing that. So that's how I got my initial push into looking at different ways of making money. And what I ended up doing is I built a bunch of websites, and it's funny, at that time, I remember, I think it was 2007, I started getting into video marketing. And what I was doing is I was living in Washington, D.C. at the time, and I thought, okay, there's all these different monuments and places. Why not go and do little short video tours and try to get them to rank on YouTube and in Google? So I did that and made a little bit of money doing that. But as time went by, I was making money through CPA ads. I was doing about $100,000 a year doing that. 2008, 2009, decided to travel the world. Went to India for 3 months. Now I live in Istanbul with my wife, who's Turkish. And during that time, I started making AdSense niche sites. And those sites were, I think, my best month last year. So we're bringing it up to about 2012. My best month last year was about $12,000 in profit from making AdSense sites and selling them. And what happened was that, as Google does, anyone who does SEO, whether it's video marketing or websites or whatever, you know that Google's quite fickle in the way that they change and their updates change around. So in September of 2012, this great income source that I had that was averaging around $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month was just gone. So I said, okay, I need something a little more stable. I need a way of connecting with people in my niche, connecting with people that are building websites, or maybe they have interesting ways of building an income online, which is what I love, ways that you can work from home or you can build a business in non-traditional ways. And I wanted to be able to reach out to these people and have real conversations and pick their brains about what they were doing. And I knew that if I just sent an email to them, or if I said, "Hey, tell me how you're making money online," they'd be like, "Okay, there's a lot of people that are asking them that question, a lot of people that want to learn from them," and they would say, "Okay, well, if you want to learn from me, I've got a coaching program, and it's $500, $1,000, $5,000 a month. Go ahead and sign up for that." So I said, okay, I'm going to start doing a show, and I learned about it online through a course. And after it was actually through David Siteman Garland from RiseToTheTop.com. He does a very similar show as I do. He does more mediapreneurs than I. He has a little bit of a different focus than I do. But I learned from him how to go out and contact people and interview them, and to build relationships with them. So I've been doing that since September, and now it's April. So it's been what, 7 months, 6, 7 months?
Yeah. So you started doing these interviews basically as a form of getting free advice from people that you want to get advice from, basically, instead of needing to pay them huge coaching fees. It was more for selfish reasons, or am I wrong?
Very selfish reasons.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that.
My reasons for doing interviews, and they still are very selfish. And that's why a lot of people, when I get emails from people and different messages, they'll say, like, you always ask the questions that I would want to ask. And that's because I don't think, okay, what's my audience going to want to know about? Are they going to want to know about this? Are they going to want to know about that? I mean, of course, it comes into play. I consider it. But when my main concern when asking people questions that come on my show are questions that I want to know about. Because if I want to know about them, chances are other people are going to want to know.
Exactly. Yeah.
So they're selfish reasons, but that's why people watch my show.
Exactly. Good point. So have you noticed anything as far as, have these interviews helped you build any type of expert status, or have they helped you, let's say if you wanted to launch a product next week, I mean, the chances of you getting affiliates and JVs behind you on helping you promote that product are probably going to be, a lot greater now. You have all these relationships built with all these people that you've interviewed, versus just starting out from scratch. You have, say if you were a nobody, basically starting out with no interviews, no lists, nothing, you're going to face a lot of hurdles versus what you've got now, the following that you've built now.
It's a million times easier now. I'm going to be introducing a product next month about how to do interviews and how to monetize them, and all the questions that people have been asking me, I'm going to answer in the product. Yep. And so when I do that, I mean, I'm going to reach out to you, Peter, and I'm going to say, can you go ahead and if you think this product is good for your list, can you just suggest it to them and say, hey, I know Mike, he's a nice guy. I've had a few conversations with him. Check this out, in which you'll say that to your list because you trust me. You've actually had contact with me. We've had a give and take relationship now where we've both provided value to each other. And now that I've interviewed, I mean, I've had 132 episodes, but I mean, there's some repeat guests on. So let's say I've had 120 people that I've interviewed. Out of those 120 people, I will be shocked if at least if 20 people don't go out and at least give me some kind of support, whether it's mentioning it to their people or sending it out to their list. I'll be very surprised if at least 20 people, if not more. And I think I'm being very pessimistic on that. So yes, to answer your question, the relationships and that you make through interviewing, and I'm not just saying about interviewing entrepreneurs or video marketers like you're doing now. Like if you're in a local business and you go out and you interview, maybe you're, I don't know, a lawyer, and you go out and interview a bunch of different lawyers in your community about questions that you have about specific things. And in the future, if you ever want to network with them, it's going to be so much easier. You can reach out to people that wouldn't normally talk to you unless you have a show to have them on.
A following, yeah. It makes you look. It helps you build that expert status. And one thing that I started out when I first started doing local stuff is we used to go out door to door and interview local business owners, and we kind of would build these little directory sites. And we would use that as a way in the door to promote our services. So I know a lot of people listening to this are going to be still doing local stuff. And I think even though most of your interviews are with online entrepreneurs, I think that those people who are doing local stuff can still get a lot by learning about what you've done and basically applying it to the offline local marketing space.
And you know what? And you know what, Peter? If you go out and you go and I'm sure people listening to this now have tried to do local local video marketing, like trying to sell video services to different local businesses. If you go out there or you call them and you say, hey, I've got this marketing product, I build websites, or I do video marketing, I want to sell you this, blah, blah, blah. They've heard it a million times.
Right.
And so many times they're going to say, no, thank you very much. We don't need that right now. Thank you. And it's over. The conversation is over. Right. So if you go up, like you said, and you knock on the door and you say, hey, we're interviewing local people. We just want to take maybe 5-10 minutes of your time, just ask you a few questions about your business. We're going to promote you on our website, and we're going to link up to you. They're going to be much more willing to say yes to that. And after you've done that, the next time you show up, the next time you email them or call them, you say, hey, it's Mike. I did that interview with you. Oh, yeah, Mike, how's it going? And then you can have that sales call with them, and they'll be much more responsive.
Right, exactly. It breaks the ice, and it builds that trust that's needed to first even sell anything offline or online. So
definitely.
So I want to ask you a little bit about how you go about scheduling your interviews, because I know that you say you do 5 a week. What is your process behind finding, first of all, seeking out potential interviewees or guests on your show, and how do you approach them and get them on your show? I'm sure in the beginning it was a little bit more difficult versus now where you've got, over 130 interviews. You've got some clout basically to back you up, but how did you get started and how do you schedule all these interviews?
It's funny. You say that it would be much harder in the beginning than it would be now, which is a natural thing to think. I thought it, and everyone would think that. And it's true to an extent. Like if I had gone out and tried to get John Chow, who's anyone of you who don't know, he's a pretty big internet marketer. Most people who do internet marketing know who he is, or Shoe Money, or even Pat Flynn to be on. Like they might be a little more difficult and a little more apt to say no if you don't already have an audience or you don't already have a track record of having a lot of people on the show and you're publishing consistently.
Right.
But more people than not are so honored and surprised and excited about being on a show. If you ask people, I have to turn people away. And even in the beginning, I had to really turn people away from being on because people like being interviewed and people like talking about their favorite subject, which everyone knows is themselves.
Right.
So
it's an ego boost.
It's an ego boost. And then you get to say, oh, I was interviewed. I was on a show. Oh, what are you doing today? Oh, I'm being interviewed. Like it's an ego boost, like you said. So getting people on essentially, or finding people isn't really that hard. You got to know what your niche is and kind of know what you really want to talk about on your show, which that's a whole nother issue in itself. Yeah. But once you've got that figured out and you know the kind of people that you want to reach out to, you can go and email them. If they have a blog, you can find their email on their blog and send an email out to them through that. If you really are trying to get this person on the show, you can try to call them and get them on. You can leave a message on Facebook, on Twitter. I think we communicated on Facebook to get this interview going. So, I mean, any of the ways you find out what they're using, because different people are going to be using different things. Some people hate email. Some people are only going to answer the phone. Right. So you can try multiple different avenues of approaching them. As far as when you approach someone to be on your show, you want to make sure that you're not saying, "Hey, I have a show, come on, like I want to interview you." It should be, "Hey, I have an audience of 20 people, 100 people, 1,000 people," whatever you can find that's going to be something that's going to provide value for them. You want them to go. People are going to always be interested in what's in it for them. And that can be difficult in the beginning because maybe you don't have a big following. But when you do have something that you can say, hey, like what I do now is I say I have an audience, I have a list of over 4,000 people, and I get X amount of views. I think it's like 15 to 30,000 views per month on my blog. I would love to share you with my audience. Yep. And that is much better than saying, I want you on my show, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. Yeah.
As far as scheduling goes, I am from Maine. I mean, my blog says Mike from Maine. It's mikefrommaine.com, but I don't actually live in Maine. I live in Istanbul, Turkey. So scheduling can be a little bit tricky for me. I have to pretty much what I'll do is I'll try to schedule people in the morning on Eastern time. So if you're on the East Coast, I'll try to get people at 9, 10, 11 o'clock. Most people are able to do that, especially people in my line of work, because a lot of people I interview are working from home. But if maybe you're interviewing someone that is working during that time, like normal people, right, yeah, you might have to schedule that interview for
later in the day,
6, 7, 8 p.m. or right after work, or it totally depends what the kind of person that you're interviewing, what their schedule looks like. But I usually like to at least give 1 to 3 time slots that they can pick when trying to schedule the interview. Like usually I'll try to give them one in the beginning. If they come back and say that they can't do that time, then we'll work around it. But usually it's not that big of an issue.
Right.
Once we have it scheduled, I'll send them an email and explaining I don't send the questions to my guests, because I find that if they know all the questions already, maybe they're going to go out and research. The worst thing you'd have is have someone, you ask someone a question and they're looking at a piece of paper and reading you the answer. So that's going to make a horrible show. You want people to be speaking normally and talking about it as they would just off the top of their head, like we're doing now.
Right.
So where was I going? So scheduling,
yeah. Give them 3 to 5.
So what I would do is I would send them an email saying specifically what the agreed upon time was, give them some information about, okay, if it's going to be a video interview, you need to be in a well-lit place with turn off your cell phone, turn off your Gmail, turn off your Skype. There's a thing at the top of Skype here that we're using where you want to have that in the red, where it's do not disturb. Yeah. So you have the did sounds coming on. It's the worst when you have those coming on while you're trying to interview. So I send that out, give them instructions about the setting that we should be in when we're going to do the interview. Then the day before the interview, usually, or within 24 hours before the interview, I'll usually send them a message on Skype saying, hey, just want to make sure that you're still available for the interview, just to kind of make sure that they remember, because people are busy, they forget, and that will get the interview back in their mind, make sure that something hasn't come up, make sure that you haven't prepared the interview and you're just sitting there at your computer and you're wasting your time. You don't want to waste your time, you don't want to waste their time. That's going to help out with that. So yeah, it's a lot easier, I think, than people make it out to be doing the Skype interviews. It's over time, you get better at doing it. You learn different things. And I look back at, if you go back and look at some of my first interviews, like the quality of my webcam, I use a Logitech, C920 webcam now, which is HD. It's got great quality. I think it's amazing quality for a Skype webcam. And if you look at my older interviews, I was using the webcam on my MacBook, and it's just dark, and I didn't have very good lighting at all, and it looks crappy. But I think most of all, people need to go and just try it and interview like a friend or something.
Right. That's me. With me, this is like one of my first interviews, and I chose you because you interviewed me, so that makes it a little bit easier on me, because I already, I've had this experience with you, so I was just kind of taking how do you say it? Taking that first experience and trying to make it a little bit more easier. Maybe interview some friends that you know, or business colleagues that you know.
Interview some friends. They're going to be nice to you, and especially for you interviewing me. Like, I know it's your first interview. I'm not going to be too hard on you. So
yeah. One thing I noticed when you first approached me for an interview was I really liked the way that you followed up. Like you said, you sent me that email the day before saying, "Are we still confirmed for tomorrow?" That reminded me of the interview, even though I didn't forget. And then you sent me that interview on how to prepare for your interview for the Mike from Maine blog. And I sent you an email to kind of show you what you need to do to prepare. Yeah, how to dress, how to make sure you're connected to the internet with an actual connection, not wireless, all that good stuff. So I liked that personally, being a guest, knowing how to be prepared. So do you mind if I ask you a couple questions on what you use as far as equipment? Because I know some people are going to want to know, what kind of mic do I need? Do I need an external microphone? Do I need, can I just use a cheap USB headset or a built-in microphone? What would you say if someone was just starting out with interviews? What do you think they would need as far as the basic equipment to get started and most cost effectively without investing thousands of dollars?
I'd say invest in the microphone that you're using there. I think that costs that whole setup you've got there costs about $115 or less.
Yeah, something like that.
Right?
It's a Samsung CL1. Yep.
Yeah, I've actually got the same. I've got the same one. My dad gave it to me as a present. The one I'm using now.
So there.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're there.
Wait, one second.
I heard the difference there.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so the one that I'm using now is the Blue Yeti. And also, I just want to point out that the error that we just had right then is something that can happen during an interview, especially when you're using technology like this. So if something happens where a microphone gets disconnected, or a dog runs past, or there's a noise in the background, like that stuff happens, and it makes things more interesting. So it's not something where you need to be like, oh no, it just ruined my whole show by something happening like that. Like, you need to be prepared to not freak out when little technology errors happen.
I think it's
so. Anyways,
person.
Yeah, I am a real person. Yeah. So this is a Blue Yeti mic. It costs, I think, under $100 now. It's perfect for me for doing an interview. It sits in front of me. It kind of looks professional. Like if I have it tilted up and you can see it in front of me, like it looks like I have a professional microphone. So that's nice. So I recommend for someone to get at least something, spend $50, spend $100, and at least have a fairly decent microphone. Because if you're doing a podcast or a video cast and your audio is horrible, it's just going to be like, no one wants to listen to that. As far as your webcam goes, like I said, I'm using the Logitech C920 webcam. That was less than $100 as well. So for less than $100, you can have really good quality video, and it's just going to make a world of difference when, especially if you're if you're interviewing people or you are making videos for businesses, like you want it to look nice. As far as headphones go, these are just crappy little $10 headphones. I would like to have, in the future, I'd like to have something that doesn't hang down here. My brother's always telling me that I need to change this, and I've tried putting it behind me before, which is something you could do, but it ended up being too short for that. So as far as recording the calls go, if you're on a PC, I recommend VodBurner for doing that. If you go to vodburner.com, it's a free service. If you're on a MacBook, there's a program called Call Recorder. It's called Ecamm Call Recorder.
Yeah, that's what I'm using right now.
Yeah, it's like $20. It's what I use also, and it's for me, it's the best thing to use. I haven't done any interviews on PCs, so I'm not really an expert on that. But if I was going to recommend something, I'd say to use VodBurner. I think it's free to try out, and maybe $20 or something if you want to.
Okay, yeah.
If you want to buy it,
yeah.
I think that's
pretty much.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, there's hosting and stuff that you need. If you go to what do you use, Libsyn?
Yeah, I use Libsyn for the podcasts. I'm probably going to do the video interviews on YouTube, just like you do. I'm pretty sure you do yours on YouTube, right?
I put them on YouTube. There's also, if you want to pay a little extra and have them be a little more professional, there's a service called Wistia, which costs a little bit, but it's the nicer end of video. But when you put them on YouTube, of course, you're going to get people coming internally from YouTube to your site.
Yeah, you get that extra traffic source. Real quick, what is the purpose for the headphones? Just so you can monitor your own voice, make sure the audio's coming in?
I use the headphones because I'm worried about the audio coming back from my computer and coming back through my microphone. Maybe it's not necessary. I mean, I guess you're not using them, and it seems to be fine for you.
Yeah. I know I've heard some people, when they're shooting videos, they'll use headphones for that sole reason, to hear their own voice, make sure the audio's sounding good. So
nah.
No, okay.
No, I mean, when I do my interviews, what I'll do is, for the introduction, I'll record. If you check out my interviews, you'll see I record the introduction before the interview, and it's just me talking. When I do that, I don't have my headphones in, unless I think there's a few interviews I've forgotten to take out my headphones, so I still have them on. But normally for that part, I don't have the headphones in.
Cool. All right, so if someone was, what would be one gold piece of advice you would give someone just wanting to get started with interviews? We've covered obviously what they need to get started as far as tech side. We've covered how you schedule the interviews and approach people. I think that's going to be everyone's biggest hurdle right there, is reaching out to potential interviews and actually having the guts to reach out to people. But what would be one piece of advice that you would give someone just getting started out that you wish you had when you were getting started?
Sure. My best piece of advice, and I see people doing this all the time that start web shows, is they think that once they start their show that it's going to get flooded. Everyone's going to be watching, and I need to have everything be perfect. And it needs to be okay. I'm gonna launch it at this specific date, and then at that time, like, okay, I can't launch it any sooner. I need to prepare for it and build up to it. And they launch it, and they've got like 10 views on their video, and they're like, huh? And so my advice would be, don't worry about too much about the technology. If you don't have a microphone, fine. If you don't want to buy a microphone, if that's too expensive for you to start out with, fine. It's much better to just start doing interviews and figure out what's needed and what you need, like, before you start and you go out and you spend $500 on all this equipment and then discover that you really don't want to do interviews.
Right, exactly.
So just start out, interview your best friend, interview just anyone, just to get a feel for it and to just kind of get your feet wet, and don't worry about all the little things. All those little things, you'll figure them out as you go along. I'm 132 episodes in, and I'm still learning things from every new episode. that I do, still making mistakes and learning from those mistakes.
Right. That's a really good piece of advice, because everyone has that fear of, everyone's usually gets stuck in the planning phases. So I got to get this perfect. I got to get my logo perfect. I got to get this piece of equipment before I get started. And the best piece of advice, like you said, is just to get started and learn as you go. And speaking from experience, that's exactly what I'm doing now. I mean, I'm sure this interview, I could probably interview you a year from now, and my interview skills will most likely be a lot better because I've learned.
If they aren't better a year from now, if your interview skills aren't better a year from now, and you've been doing interviews continuously, there's something wrong with you.
Right.
Like if my interview skills aren't better a year from now, there's something wrong with me. Like, I would hope that, I mean, the best way of learning is by doing. The best way is to just do it and fail and just continue just failing and doing. And hopefully over time you're going to have enough successes from all of what you've done to make it all worthwhile. So just go out there and I guess as Nike says, just do it. Like, it's the lamest quote ever, but it's so true. It's so true. Yeah,
exactly. So where can people go to find out more about you? Obviously, we got the Mike from Maine blog. They can watch all your content there. But I know you mentioned that you're working on a course, and we're gonna put that in the show notes, and I will recommend that when that actually comes out.
Awesome.
But do you have anything that you would like our listeners to do as far as keeping up with what you're doing?
Yeah, if you want to go to mikefrommaine.com, there's a place up at the top where you can put in your email. If you're interested in following my interviews, I email out every day and tell people about the interviews that are available. If you follow through there, I'm going to send out an email once my course is ready, which should be next month. So it's April now. It should be ready by May. I'm going to put out a course all about everything of doing interviews, and they'll have videos walking people through all the different aspects of it. So if you're at all interested in doing Skype interviews, you should check that out. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. If you just search for Mike from Maine in Google, you'll find all that stuff.
Cool.
So
yeah, I'm actually. What was that?
I was going to say also there's a comment box, or like a chat box on my site. So feel free to come over and say hi to me. I love chatting with people. I'm not one of those people that's you can never find me and I'm the Wizard of Oz that you'll never see. Like, if you want to ask me a question or get in touch, I'm more than welcome you to. Cool.
Well, thanks for coming on the show and being the very first Skype interview guest on Video Revolver podcast. I really appreciate the time and all the valuable info you've given everyone on conducting interviews. So thanks a lot, and I'll talk to you later.
Thank you, Peter.
If you like this video, you should visit my website and subscribe for free email updates to make sure you don't miss anything else like this that I release. Sometimes I post private videos on my website and for my email subscribers only. So go ahead and click the button right here to go to my website, enter your best email in the box, and click the subscribe button. And when I got something cool to share with you, I'll email it right to your inbox. So until next time, I'm Peter Beattie with VideoRevolver.com, and I will talk to you soon.